study for the Iowa Renewable Fuels Association on the potential for the ethanol industry, in particular with regards to opportunities with sustainable aviation fuel. But it was actually a little broader than that because it included not only the potential for ethanol to be converted into sustainable aviation fuel, but also looked at several other feedstocks. So first off, it looked at what's the pathway of getting sustainable aviation fuels from HEFA, which is the soybean-based and oil, canola oil-based, the bio-based oils, from those products into sustainable aviation fuel, ethanol-to-jet, E-to-J we call it, of moving, converting ethanol into sustainable aviation fuel, and then other cellulosic ethanol into aviation fuel, and what they call power to fuel, which is pulling CO2 directly out of the atmosphere, combining that with renewable hydrogen, and through the magic of organic chemistry, converting that into a synthetic kerosene or synthetic aviation fuel. So we looked at, right now there's about 20 million gallons of sustainable aviation fuel made. The potential by 2050 is for about 35 billion gallons of sustainable aviation fuel. We think the HEFA pathway could be anywhere from 3 to 6 billion gallons of that, and the ethanol could be anywhere from 5 to 12 billion gallons of the sustainable aviation fuel of the future, so that basically soybean-based and corn-based feedstocks could account for probably up to half of the sustainable aviation fuel potential if we allow it to happen. The Renewable Fuels Association, Iowa Renewable Fuels Association, they're working with decision makers both at the state level, the county level, because one of the things that has to happen for ethanol to be even eligible to be used in sustainable aviation fuel is it needs to have a carbon intensity score of probably less than 30 in order to be used as a feedstock. Right now, conventional ethanol has a CI score in Iowa of about 52 to 55. We can lower that by 30 points by using carbon sequestration via pipelines. So the issue is the public policy around allowing pipelines to be built to move carbon dioxide into sequestration points in North Dakota or in Illinois, where the rock formations are appropriate for doing that. There really are very few, if any, rock formations in Iowa that are appropriate for sequestering carbon. Those things exist in North Dakota, they exist in Illinois, they exist further east in the Corn Belt, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan. The underground rock formations are good. But the use of this is going to be working with county and state officials, and the public, and helping them understand the value of the opportunity that's ahead of us with ethanol-to-jet, the potential expansion that would happen with the ethanol industry. But the secondary part of it is we're increasing corn production in the U.S. about 210 million bushels a year just from yield increases. That's not new acreage, that's just technology and yield increases. Corn production goes up on average about 210 million bushels a year. 25 years, you got 5 billion bushels more of corn that you got to find a home for, or else we got to start cutting acreage. So as a farmer, I don't want to let my land lay idle. Corn is the prime crop in a state like Iowa. So if I'm going to hold my corn acreage where it's at, I need to find a use for 5 billion bushels more corn. SAF is the logical use of that. We understand the infrastructure that's needed to convert it to ethanol. It creates jobs all across rural Iowa. It's not concentrated in the big cities. It's in places like Manning, Iowa, and Hanlontown, Iowa, and Marshalltown, Nevada, Iowa. We have 42 ethanol plants scattered around the state right now. This says we would need to build probably another 60 ethanol plants across the Midwest. We think probably 11 or 12 of those would end up in Iowa, probably 14 of them in Illinois, spread across, 7 or 8 in South Dakota. They're going to be spread across the whole Midwest, but there's an opportunity for more of these plants to be built, utilizing the corn locally in Iowa, adding value to the crop in Iowa. That's what the project was about, was putting numbers, quantification to what's the opportunity. Yes, they received a report, but they also received slide decks and other avenues of communication, if you will. We've already done some presentations at the Iowa Renewable Fuels Annual Summit that was in January. There'll be more presentations at various meetings around the state, very likely at the summer international fuel ethanol workshops, various places like that, but they're also using it. The members of the Renewable Fuels Association of Iowa are using it, and the corn growers are using it to visit with local officials, using the report to visit with state officials, using it in talking with members of the public to talk about what the economic opportunities are and work through the issues that exist around the public policy side of pipelines. The issue is, yes, because of the required permits that are needed, going through the permit process, those kind of things. So it's entities like Summit Carbon, Wolf Carbon, that are the backers or the companies behind putting the pipelines together. But it's also the corn growers, it's renewable fuels manufacturers, and it's also people that are tangential to those industries that are potential suppliers, etc. But also working with, again, county officials, etc., where the pipelines are going to go, where potential ethanol plants, where sustainable aviation fuel plants might be built. Again, just trying to set the legacy. There was farmers that and people that were part of developing the biofuels industry that has really been transformational for the state of Iowa over the last 15, 20 years. We're probably at another point where are we going to take the second step in that and enable us to allow biofuels to be a very significant part of the next 25 years and how we have growth and how we have development across rural Iowa, rural Illinois, the rural Midwest, because that's where biofuels have their biggest opportunity, is creating very good high-paying jobs across rural areas, creating markets for the products we produce as producers, as farmers, and solving environmental issues that the public wants solved. We all want a greener economy. We all want greener fuels, if you will. We think there are alternatives to just electric vehicles, and that tends to be in the biofuels arena. And so this study and the one we did before it for the Iowa Renewable Fuels Association that looked at kind of what were the negative sides of if we don't move forward, but this looked at the positive impacts. What are the opportunities ahead of us, and how do we get there?